Hey, Kevin here with Notes on Iowa. Today we're talking about part 2, day 8 of my 2021 walk across Iowa to follow in the footsteps of the 1835 Iowa Dragoons. And so as I was headed this day from Fort Dodge up through Dakota City and Humboldt to Rutland and Rose Mill Park, I was again facing some challenges from the heat, going to see some exciting historical sites and also take in some of the agricultural landscape. So come with me as we take a look at part 2, day 8 of my 2021 walk across Iowa. So I started at Kennedy Park Campground, which hosts Badger Lake, which we can see here is a 54-acre lake near the town of Badger, between there and Fort Dodge, and then also an 18-hole golf course. And as I got started, it was too early for golfers, but there were a lot of sprinklers going on the golf course. I made my way kind of through a couple of fairways over to the west side of the park, where I caught the road where I had left off yesterday. It's supposed to be another really hot day. It was the 8th day in a row. I was on the road in heat indexes around 100, and I knew I wanted to get started early, make my way as soon as possible up to the Three Rivers Trail, and just stack some miles up. I was just over 275 miles for the total journey, and hoping to make it to about 300 by the end of the next day when I was ending part 2, hopefully at the Grotto of the Redemption West Bend. And as I continued on, I saw a variety of different agricultural sites. See this barn here. I turned onto National Avenue, a gravel road that was going to take me for the last stretch of road I'd have for quite some time. Once I made it up to the Dakota City area, I was going to be able to hop on the Three Rivers Trail, and that would kind of take me in the old rail bed all the way to Rutland and beyond, even the next day. I did make an acquaintance with this cat. He looks pretty ferocious here, but by the time he made it out to the road, very friendly. I just wanted to say hello, thought about coming with me for about 50 yards or so, and then walked under a tree and took a rest. I took in the rest of the sites while also thinking about, just to the west of me was the confluence of the east and west forks of the Des Moines River. This is important to our Dragoons part of the journey, because the Dragoons took their horses and they got really lost, leaving Wabasha's village on the Mississippi River, kind of headed over, hit Albert Lee, eventually caught the east fork of the Des Moines River, and I think when they arrived right here, we can see the west fork in the video, they were excited to be at the confluence, because it meant they were well on their way back to First Fort Des Moines, and they would start to be getting closer to territory they had covered earlier in the expedition. As I sat there at Frank A. Gotch State Park, I took in the confluence and thought about how far I had come since the Mississippi River and Fort Montrose all the way up. Eventually, I continued on and arrived at the Three Rivers Trail. And this is a great readaptation of transportation infrastructure. So the Three Rivers Trail is built in an old railway that runs from Thor into Pocahontas County. And this is great, because when we think about the railroads being built in the 1800s, they helped local farmers participate in external markets. We can see here the old railway running through Dakota City and Humboldt. And today they offer great recreational opportunities. Whether you wanted to ride a bike or go walking or running, these are great trails, and many or more are being built throughout the state, and they help actually bring in outside tourist dollars, which is great for some communities. I was really happy that this is a really well-shaded trail. As I made my way down, it provided me with some shelter from the heat, and I got to see some really cool bridges, like this one over the east fork of the Des Moines River, which kind of is running up into Dakota City. Dakota City and Humboldt kind of meet on the peninsula between the two. And then a railway bridge like this over a busy street that allowed me to just kind of keep my pace and keep rolling on over traffic as I made my way into Dakota City and Humboldt. And these two communities are kind of stacked right next to each other. Humboldt, very important community, both historically and today for the surrounding area, hosts a large high school, also has Frank Gotch Park, not to be confused with the state park just to the south, but Frank Gotch, favorite son, grew up on a farm 3 miles south of Humboldt, and became a world heavyweight wrestling champion, and great famous island. as I headed through Humboldt, I kind of headed into the more industrial part of town, put up the drone quickly, and then continued to just stack those miles up as I raced kind of towards finishing, eventually passing back out to the countryside briefly before arriving in Rutland. And Rutland, very agriculturally based community. I actually didn't see any people as I went through, but I saw a lot of benches like this one for the old railway depot, which would have been very significant in Rutland. We can see it in several of the photos associated with the town, like this one here with a big steam engine pulling in, or kind of the next photo where we can see large grain storage next to that. As I walked through Rutland, still big grain storage opportunities there, but I was headed down for the West Fork of the Des Moines River to take a break. And lucky for me, there were many benches along the river in this scenic park. The first bench, the railway depot, was just a sign of things to come. I saw dozens of benches, it seemed like, down in Rosemill Park, memorializing all sorts of people from the community. But as I sat there, the real star of the show in Rutland is Rose Mill, and we can see that here in the video. Just a beautiful historic structure that's been relatively well preserved, especially considering it's a mill on a river that creates all sorts of challenges for preservation, but just a beautiful site. And I was able to put the drone up, get off my feet a little bit, and feel like I had made it a pretty good chunk of the way. I was sitting in the 280s in terms of mileage, very manageable next day up to West Bend, so I called it a day and went out to scout the route for the next day, think about finishing out, and then coming back to make a bunch of videos for you all, and articles and all that stuff too. But good day despite the heat, and some really cool stuff along the Three Rivers Trail. So, on part 2, day 8, I made some steady progress up from Fort Dodge through Dakota City and Humboldt, all the way over to Rutland to come within striking distance of West Bend and the Grotto of the Redemption, where I planned to finish part 2 the next day. Great kind of day in terms of just kind of focusing on the end goal. And as I continue to make these photos and videos, don't worry, I'm going to finish out the videos dedicated to the walking and those things, and then I'm going to go into a more research-intensive part of the project. So if you have ideas for sources I should look at about local communities or historic people related to the Dragoons or some of the sites I'm seeing, I'd really appreciate those leads. People make this project better every day, and the feedback of all sorts of different people has helped me out over the course of this journey, and I really appreciate you taking the time to take a look at the video. Thanks.
There's a lot of good history about Iowa a lot of people don't even know about.